Well, it's a long conversation about that. Well, Nadav Arbel, married, 3 boys, started in this industry about 17 years ago. I did 3.5, almost 4 years in the military, then still doing for the last 20 years reserve duty. I started off at technology companies, working for different government agencies, worked for some military agencies, all around, in and around technology projects. I always say I started in the cyber world before we called it cyber. That was 15 or 16 years ago. It had different names, SIGINT, ELINT, COMINT, whatever. Worked for the 8200 unit in the intelligence agency, in the military, then for 2 other intelligence agencies in the military. Spent about 7.5 years in the police force, so I moved from the more militant side of it to the law enforcement side, which has different perspectives, different regulations, different requirements, you know, when they call the police and something's done. I left the police about 6.5 years ago. My last position was I was the head of the Israeli Cyber Technical Unit for about 3.5, 4 years. I established it, commanded it, and left it after about 4 years. Started CyberHat. That's almost 6 years ago. CyberHat is, well, it started off being a very hands-on tactical company. I was the only employee for the first 6 months. Very, very bootstrap company. Just started working. Did contracting for small, medium companies, then very quickly, in less than 6 months, started doing contracting for the biggest companies in the world, HP, the Ciscos, the Accentures, the IBMs of the world. Well, there was a huge need for, let's call it working hands. So all the companies were selling cybersecurity expertise. And even in my last position, we identified that you were buying a name, but you were getting someone else. It's not that they didn't have the skills at all, but nowhere near the amount that we're selling. So I'm sure they're very smart guys in IBM and HP and Cisco and all that, but nowhere near the amount of work they're selling. So they were shopping for skills endlessly. And then we said, you know, you don't need to go sell, you don't need to produce, they do everything. They just bring the work to you, you do it. It's a good business. We did that for 2 years approximately. We were swamped with work. It's word to mouth. Once 2, 3, 4 people understand that you're actually capable of doing the work and you delivered the last 3, 4 projects well, you're swamped with work, especially in 2013, 14. There were maybe 2 or 3 companies that were doing the same high-end level work we were doing. We were doing high-end hacking simulations. So essentially we were simulating what would happen to a real company. It could be Fortune 500 company, it could be a small office. What would happen if a group of hackers decided to hack you? So simulate what happened to Sony, to different studios, simulate what happened to the Sands Casino, to different casinos, banks, insurance companies, retailers. There was no segment in the market. If you had IT, you were a potential victim, target. So we were doing hacking simulations by the dozens. We were doing incident response for people who had got hit. And apparently that was by far the let's say the skill that was lacking the most in the market. There were a lot of companies, especially big accounting firms, not to mention names, of sort who were offering incident response capabilities or services. But when it got down to it, again, huge gap in skills.